Imagine a sky bleeding with celestial fire, not from a sun, but from the fracture of a flawless soul. Not in hell, not even near the edge of creation. Right in the heart of paradise, where harmony never missed a beat, and worship rose like breathing. If you crave hidden layers of scripture stories that shake you awake and pull you closer to God, subscribe to Bible Mysteries Africa right now, ring the bell, and share this message with someone who needs a warning and a way back. Your support helps us bring the light of the Word across Africa and beyond. Before Earth had dust, before clocks had seconds, before oceans learned their boundaries, heaven was complete. Light moved in perfect order. Wisdom flowed without strain. And music, pure living music, wove through everything like a river of glory. Among countless angels, one stood out. Not merely beautiful, astonishing, radiant beyond language, wise beyond measure, draped in splendor like he had been carved from the idea of excellence itself. Tradition calls him Lucifer, the shining one, the morning star, the light bearer. He was near the throne, near the mysteries, near the blaze of divine presence. He was trusted. He was honored. He was gifted in ways that made other angels look like candlelight beside sunrise. And yet, the most dangerous thing about brightness is that it can make you forget where it came from. One day, if we can even call it a day before time, there was a stillness in heaven that felt heavier than the void. Not fear, not chaos. A hush, like a sacred pause in the middle of an eternal song. And God spoke not with thunder, not with rage, but with clarity so pure it cut through every thought. You are the bearer of light, the mirror of my glory. Through you, heaven sees my splendor. Through you, my angels learn wisdom. Lucifer bowed, and the radiance around him seemed to bow too. Then God continued, gentle, precise, unavoidable. Remember this: the light burning in you is not yours. You are the vessel, not the source. That sentence landed in heaven like a bell struck once in the center of infinity, and something small, so small it could hide inside perfection, stirred within Lucifer. He answered with words that sounded right. Everything I am comes from you. My light belongs to you. My song belongs to you. But deep inside, a whisper took shape, quiet as a thought you don't confess even to yourself. If I reflect his glory this perfectly, doesn't that make me glorious too? Pride did not arrive like a monster. It arrived like wonder, like an innocent fascination with one's own brilliance, like a glance at your reflection that lasts just a heartbeat too long. And God, who sees the seed before the tree exists, warned him not as a tyrant guarding power, but as a father guarding a son from self-destruction. The closer someone stands to light, the darker their shadow can grow. If your heart ever claims what belongs to me, your brightness will turn against you. The very thing that lifts you up will become the fire that brings you down. Lucifer heard the words, but he didn't yet understand their weight. Because pride at first doesn't feel like rebellion. It feels like being awake. It feels like finally seeing what you deserve. Then creation unfolded. Realms formed. Stars ignited. The foundations of worlds were laid. And among the angels, Lucifer's splendor seemed to intensify. He led worship. He moved through heaven with authority. He carried beauty like a crown and influence like a fragrance that spread wherever he went.
And let the light
But with
guide
every
you forward.
song he sang, something else grew subtle, patient, invisible to everyone except the one who reads hearts. It wasn't hatred at first. It wasn't rage. It was a hunger to be more than a reflection. A desire to be seen not as a channel, but as a center. Not as a servant, but as a sovereign. And that is where the line began to crack. During worship, when the multitudes bowed before God's throne, Lucifer began to feel something he had never felt before. The sweetness of being admired. The gaze of other angels warmed him. Their awe fed him. Their admiration became a kind of incense he began to breathe in. And slowly worship started to feel like chains. He withdrew. He stopped joining the great gatherings. He stopped adding his voice to the endless chorus. At first it was subtle, an absence, a silence. But heaven noticed. Not because Lucifer was fragile, but because his presence had always been part of the music. Who would question him? Who would confront the brightest creation of God? In the solitude of his palace of light, Lucifer began composing a new kind of music. Not songs of worship, songs of self. Melodies that celebrated brilliance, intellect, freedom. The sound was mesmerizing. It felt powerful. It felt like truth. It was the kind of beauty that doesn't heal, you know, the kind that hypnotizes. Some angels heard it from far away. Drawn by it, they came closer. Lucifer smiled. "Do you feel it?" he asked softly. "The beauty of what we are. We who move among the stars, who carry light itself, are we not worthy of more than endless service?" He didn't speak with violence. He spoke with elegance. He didn't declare war. He planted questions. And questions, when rooted in pride, become ladders people climb without realizing they're leaving God behind. The whisper spread like shadow at sunset, slow, smooth, almost unseen.
We stand
He called
at a
it
critical
enlightenment.
juncture. The decisions we
Awakening.
make here will impact countless
Freedom.
lives, and I believe we are
Meanwhile,
ready to
God
meet this moment
watched.
together.
And he did not strike.
But the prophecy
He
said
did not silence. Because
Quiet
even in
now.
heaven will matter.
We must observe.
Love does not force loyalty. It invites it. And invitation means the possibility of refusal. Then came a moment that hardened the storm inside Lucifer. God declared his intention to create a world and to shape beings in his image lower than angels, formed from dust, yet destined to carry his breath and his presence. They would walk in time. They would choose. They would love. And through their love, God's glory would be revealed in a way heaven had never witnessed. The angels rejoiced. All except one. Lucifer stood still, and something new burned behind his eyes, resentment. Creatures of dust, called children, loved, with intimacy. Given a place in God's story that would not revolve around angels. In that moment, the poisonous thought stopped being a whisper and began to become a vow. Why should I bow forever? Why should every song end with his name and not mine? If I carry his light, why must I live in his shadow and in the language Scripture uses to describe the heart of this rebellion? The ambition is crystal clear. I will ascend. I will exalt my throne. I will be like the Most High. That is the hinge of eternity, the moment a created being decides the Creator is not enough. God spoke again. Grief threaded through majesty. You were blameless from the day you were created until unrighteousness was found in you. Why do you turn against me? Lucifer fell to one knee, but not in worship, in defiance. You call it pride. I call it freedom. You made me reflect your light, but I have found my own. Why should I live as your shadow when I can burn brighter than dawn? And that is the tragedy. Pride always confuses stolen light for original fire. God answered with heartbreak sharpened into truth. You cannot create light from pride. You can only steal it. And stolen light will consume you. Turn back before your beauty becomes your curse. Freedom without love is pride. Pride without truth is death. I gave you light to share, not to worship. I made you to serve, not to rule. But by then, Lucifer's own voice had become louder than God's warning. The reflection had started to love itself more than the source. And something happened that no angel had ever experienced: separation. The warmth of God's presence that once filled Lucifer began to recede, not because God stopped being present, but because Lucifer's heart stopped receiving him. His brightness didn't immediately vanish. It twisted. It became a glare, a fire fueled not by grace, but by self. Then heaven trembled, not with fear of God, but with the shock of seeing harmony crack. In the deepest chambers of heaven, Lucifer gathered the angels who had been drawn to him. Not all were evil. Not all were hateful. Many were simply deceived by the beauty of confidence. Misguided loyalty can be powerful when it is fed by a shining lie. My brother's Lucifer said, "Calm as poison in honey." We have served without question. We have sung his praises since before time began. But now he creates beings of dust and calls them his children. Are we not more divine? Should we not share in his throne? Some looked down in confusion. Some nodded slowly, stirred by a hunger they didn't understand. And that is how rebellion grows, not by convincing you to hate God, but by convincing you that you deserve to be God. The first spark of war ignited in a place that had only ever known peace. Then came Michael's strength, clothed in humility armor, shining like molten gold, voice firm with sorrow. Lucifer, you stand on sacred ground and speak words that do not belong to heaven. Stop this before it destroys you. Lucifer turned and smiled, not warmly, but sharply. Destroy me. No, brother. It will free me. You serve without question. You bow without thought. But I see what you cannot. There is no truth outside his will, Michael replied. Then his will is a cage. Light faced light. Purpose faced pride. Heaven held its breath. And when the final line was crossed, God spoke with terrifying finality, not because he lacked love, but because love does not pretend rebellion is harmless. If you will not serve, you cannot remain. The throne you coveted will be forever closed to you. The light you love will become your fire. You will no longer be the bearer of light, you will become the accuser because you have turned against truth. And then the music stopped, not because heaven ran out of worship, but because something had entered eternity that did not belong there, discord. The war was not a war of steel. It was a clash of will radiance against shadow, obedience against pride. Heaven shook under the weight of an unthinkable sentence. A created being was trying to dethrone the uncreated God. Michael's host rose in unity, their cry shaking the foundations of eternity. Who is like God? Lucifer fought with the fury of a dying sun, terrible, brilliant, blazing. For a moment, his rebellion looked like glory. But pride cannot sustain what only grace can feed. And when the stolen fire began collapsing inward, the fall began. Scripture uses the language of suddenness like lightning. One moment exalted, the next cast down. And as he fell, the ones who followed him fell too, their splendor tearing into darkness. In the endless void, the light-bearer became the shadow breather. And if there is a final sentence that should freeze us awake, it is this: he did not fall because he was weak. He fell because he refused to remember. He forgot the source. That is the warning for every human heart. Pride begins when we stop thanking God and start congratulating ourselves. When we want the gift but resent the giver. When we want freedom that is really just independence from truth. When we prefer our reflection over the one we were made to reflect. But you do not have to walk that path. Humility is not humiliation, it is alignment. It is remembering where the light comes from. It is choosing to be a vessel that stays connected to the source. If this message stirred your spirit like the video, subscribe to Bible Mysteries Africa and share it with someone you love. Every share is a seed of light planted in a place where darkness has been winning for too long. And tell me in the comments, which is more dangerous, open rebellion, or pride that disguises itself as awakening? Stay awake. Stay humble. Stay in his light.